This is obviously kind of not really controversial, but there's a lot of different things that you can do with real estate photography, and there's a lot of different lenses that are going to be able to, provide probably everything that you need to be able to get the photos. But there's just probably a couple of recommendations that I have from my experience doing real estate photography and what I've learned. So let's get into it. When I started real estate photography, I was using zoom lens, and it was a 24-70, and I thought, oh, this will be just fine for what I'm doing. And I was shooting a really small property, and when I got inside, I was like, oh, you know what, this isn't a wide enough lens for me. So I was missing a lot of the room, and I wasn't able to get the whole room. And with real estate photography, the goal of real estate photography is being able to showcase the rooms and being able to showcase the big spaces, make them seem bigger, and especially for the smaller rooms, you want to make them seem bigger than they really are. The 24-70 just wasn't good enough. I think if I was shooting a bigger room, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. But at the same time, even shooting on a full frame camera, I was still missing out on a lot of details and just that wide angle look that so many real estate photos have. What I learned from that day was that, hey, I need to get a wider lens. So what should I get? I did a lot of research, and a lot of people are saying a lot of different things. I saw 16-35 as a really common focal length real estate photography, and I was like, okay, I could do that. And then I found a brand by the name of Samyang, and I think they had it was a 16mm, and I was like, okay, that's perfect. It's super wide. I can't go wrong with it. And I got it, and as soon as I started, taking photos with it, I saw instantly the change in my photos, and I was able to get so much more of the room in the photos. And I was like, well, this is going to help me so much being able to showcase the whole room. I purchased it, and I think it was like $180, something like that. And at the time, I was like, oh man, that's a lot of money. I look at today, a couple of years later, and I'm like, wow, that lens, what a great investment, because I still use it to this day. And it's obviously made me a lot of money. I think what I learned in that experience was being able to get the proper lens helped me get 90% of the way. I mean, maybe not 90, but a really far step along the way, because I had the right equipment. There's a lot of different lenses that'll get you kind of the same product, but some lenses I think will come out on top and some may come short just a little bit. The key with the wide angle lenses is they are for interiors. You use them for interiors for 90% of the shoots that you're going to be doing. Unless you're doing high-end listings, you're still going to use the wide angle lens, but being able to have kind of that zoom, that 16-35, gives you an opportunity. Say they have a really nice backsplash in the kitchen, they have really cool interior design. Maybe you want to get some nice tighter shots of some of the interior design in a house. I would say more on the rare side that you're going to be shooting a property like that, but being able to kind of have that variable zoom is where the 16-35mm lens comes in handy. I know a lot of people, that like to use it, especially for the higher end listings, just because they have that flexibility that, hey, if I want to get a tighter shot of the kitchen or maybe some other room, I have that flexibility. For sticking with the ultra wide or wide lens for 90% of your shoots, it's going to get you there. I would say for exteriors, that's where the 24-70 was a perfect lens for me. Typically when I do exteriors, I typically do 3 shots in the front. I typically will go in the corners and step back a little bit, and then I'll zoom in and get a tighter shot of the house. I really love that shot. Particularly, I think it's one of my favorite shots to do when I'm shooting a house, because it looks super good when it's all edited and finished, because you have wide lens shot of the house in the front yard and the driveway, and then you have this nice tight shot of kind of the front, whether they have a porch, the front door, or just kind of the house number, the garage. I think it looks really good, especially if you can get the blue sky in the back. It's just a really nice professional looking photos. So that's why I love the 24-70. Depending on how big their yard is, it's nice to be able to have that flexibility once again, where a 24-70 gives you that. You are able to shoot the whole yard, you're able to shoot everything in the yard, landscape or whatever, and then you're also able to get tight shots of, you know, the house. So in the same way, I kind of do the same thing with the backyard, depending on how big the backyard is and if I have the space, but a lot of times I don't, because you have fences or you have someone else's yard, so I'm not able to do that really nice tight shot. But I think for most real estate shoots, you really want to accent the front of the house, because that's obviously the point where people are driving by and they see that. That's the curb. So being able to have that nice tight shot in the front, I think goes a long way. I carry 2 lenses with me everywhere I go, and I still use that Samyang. I still use that 24-70. And I think those 2 lenses are perfect for pretty much every real estate shoot I've done. Whether it's been a $1 million listing, whether it's been a smaller listing, both those lenses have given me everything that I've needed for a real estate shoot. If you are just beginning real estate photography, I would suggest buy the lens first. Don't worry about the camera body. Make sure the camera body works with the lens, obviously. If you are going to get into real estate photography and you're like, should I buy the $4,000 camera, $2,000 lens? No, I wouldn't suggest that. If you have the money, great, do it, you know, it'll be just fine, it'll be amazing. But if you're on a budget, buy the lens first. I would say, even if you can, buy the kit lenses, because the kit lens has a variable and it has a zoom. I think the zoom, it depends on the kit lens, but I think it's like a 70 to 300 or something like that. I know when I got my Nikon kit lens before I got this camera, which is the Nikon D850, it was a kit lens, and it was perfect because I had the zoom, I had, you know, the wide, so it was just perfect. It could do everything. So I would suggest getting a wide-angled lens if you can get it with a kit lens, especially if you're doing real estate photography. It'll cover you for 90% of what you're looking to do. Now, the other thing you need to worry about is, do you have a crop sensor or do you have full frame? Obviously, you're gonna pay a little bit more for a full frame camera, but with the full frame, you're getting a true 24. Now with a crop sensor, if you're shooting on a 35mm, it's gonna look more like a 50. So you need to be careful if you are shooting on a crop sensor camera that you get a wide enough lens, because when you go into a room and you're shooting on a crop sensor, instead of getting the whole view, you're gonna be getting this type of a view. You are going to be getting a crop version of that photo. So make sure you get an extra wide lens for your crop sensor cameras. That's what I would suggest. Those are the 2 lenses that I use, the Samyang 16mm, and then I do have the Nikon 24-70 for kind of the exteriors and sometimes those interior shots for the higher end listings. Like I said, you can do this with a pretty basic camera and like $180 for like a wide angle lens, and you can have yourself a business. If you haven't, make sure you hit the like, subscribe button. I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Thanks.